to get off the phone. So finally I told him, Wiley, I got to get off, or I got to do my live stream. So he went in the bedroom. Anywho, I hope everybody's having a good day today. It is Saturday. Y'all see my beautiful flower back there? I think I'm going to end up lining this whole wall with plants. I know how much Wiley's going to love that. I'm just going to wait for some people to come in. Oh, hi, good morning. Good morning, good morning. I don't know what that little cute dog is, but it's cute. Sent a corgi. There you go. Thanks. Morning, Anne. Good morning, Kim. Morning, Cheryl, Tamra, Patricia. Good morning, everybody. So if you guys haven't done it already, I know there's several of you that have, but if you haven't done it already, dang it, I forgot to include the link again. Gosh dang it, I'm horrible at this, y'all. So in yesterday's video, there's a link to the Bible study that we are doing for in the Bible app if you want to join us. And it pertains to Matthew chapter 15 through 21. I believe it's a 7-day thing. And we can read about it. And what we would read about today is what we're actually reading about in this live stream too. So you can watch the live stream and then you can go do the Bible study on the app, or you can do it before the live stream and we can talk about it. Either way, I just think it's going to be awesome to share. Morning, Matt. Good morning, Tina. So yeah, anyway, sorry, I forgot to include the link again. I'll get better at this, guys. The link is in yesterday's live stream though. I've been up for a while. My coffee's almost empty. How's everybody doing today? We'll wait for a couple more people to come in before we get started. Matt, you got to work today? Tamara, what are you up to today? Yay. Oh, it's raining. Yeah, it's not raining here, thankfully. Skies are clear and blue. Good morning, Vance. Good morning, good morning. So the skies are clear here. It's a little bit chilly. It's about 50 degrees right now. And been raining. Yeah, I don't know if we are going to get rain, but I do know that it's going to be cold this weekend. I don't know why people got to come in here and be dirty. Anywho, all right. Wiley, you want to moderate for me? The trolls have already been trolling.
You ain't got no moderators in there?
Oh, yeah, there is, but thought you might want to help.
I'm in conversation with Doug right now.
Okay. Outdoors with Vance. Yes, I will definitely send prayers where it's very hard to stay focused on the right things. I totally feel you. Oh my gosh. I literally okay, so I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. I am not at the point in my spirituality or whatever that I can think up prayers and pray like an official prayer. Most of my prayers are more just conversational, like God is sitting next to me, except it's, in my mind, which kind of makes me sound a little crazy, but I'm not good at coming up with prayers. So I have been having that same problem, Vance, where I just cannot stay focused on the right things. I can be reading something out loud and my mind still wanders. Like, I am having such a hard time with that. And I've come to the conclusion that it is a spiritual attack. I've come to the conclusion that I think that God is attacking my mind to keep me from doing what I need to be doing. And I actually resorted to ChatGPT and asked it to write me a prayer for clarity and for, protecting against the devil's attacks and stuff. And so, Vance, I feel you so much on what you said about, having a hard time. Yeah, I feel you. Anne said, hey, Wiley.
I
am. Morning, Jen. How are you? Heading over to the house again. It's coming along. We got water yesterday. Woo! Now you can clean good. Good morning, James. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Yeah, you guys can hang out with us, but keep your comments respectful. Yeah, praying is talking to our Father and is not to be planned, right? I needed to get the right words. And I know that I feel better after that. So Patricia, will you send it to me? Hello from Maine. Hello. Yeah, don't be a hypocrite. Okay, there's a lot of comments. Sorry, guys. All right. Do you ever catch yourself saying the same prayer all the time? No, because like I said, it's more like an ongoing conversation. I don't typically it's not like I recite the same prayer all the time. It's a conversation. So I might repeat myself, but I don't really feel like I repeat the same prayer over and over again. Morning, Margaret. All right. Where do you want me to send it? You can send it to my email. Or if you share it on the Bible app, I don't know if you can share links on the Bible app or not. All right. So I'm going to start getting to reading, guys. We have 26 people in here. If you are new here, I'm reading the New International Version Life Application Study Bible. And we're going to go ahead and jump into the Word. Today we're studying Matthew chapter 17. My study Bible I'll show you how it's laid out if you're new here. It's got the actual Word up here, and it's got a commentary, extra context section down here that actually applies it to life, makes it easier for us to understand in modern times. So also, if you want to connect with me on the Bible app, I will be including those links. I did not include those. I might have included the link to my Bible app profile. I don't think I sent the link or put the link in there for the Bible study that we're working on, but I'll get better. All right. So we're going to go over Jesus is transfigured on the mountain. And then we're going to read 1 through 13 before we pause to read the bottom section. So we're going to go over it twice. Jesus is transfigured on the mountain. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as light. Just then there appeared before them Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, a bright cloud covered him, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell face down to the ground, terrified. But Jesus came and touched them. "Get up," he said. "Don't be afraid." When they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus instructed them, "Don't tell anyone what you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." The disciples asked him, "Why then do the teachers of the law say that Elijah must come first?" Jesus replied, "To be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things. But I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but have done to him everything they wished. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer at their hands." Then the disciples understood what he was talking about to them about John the Baptist. All right, so now we're going to read over that same section again, but this is the commentary part at the bottom. The Transfiguration was a vision, a brief glimpse of the true glory of the King. This was a special revelation of Jesus' divinity to 3 of the disciples, and it was God's affirmation to everything Jesus had done and was about to do. Moses and Elijah were the 2 greatest prophets in the Old Testament. Moses represents the law, or the Old Covenant. He wrote the Pentateuch, is that how you say that? And he predicted the coming of the great prophet in Deuteronomy 18:15 through 19. Elijah represents the prophets who foretold the coming of the Messiah in Malachi 4:5 through 6. Moses and Elijah's presence with Jesus confirmed Jesus' messianic mission to fulfill God's law and the words of God's prophets. Just as God's voice in the cloud over Mount Sinai gave authority to the law given to Moses in Exodus 19:9, God's voice at the Transfiguration gave authority to Jesus' words. The Transfiguration was a foretaste of heaven. The participants were doing something worth noting. They were talking together. In God's world, interactions count highly. People are individuals with minds, hearts, and opinions. People are also part of a wider whole, connected by relationships built on sharing between whole persons. Friendship is key. Make time and find opportunities to talk with others. Good conversations act as training for eternity. Peter wanted to build 3 shelters for these 3 great men. Peter had the right idea about Jesus, but his timing was wrong. Peter wanted to act, but this was a time for worship and adoration. He wanted to memorialize the moment, but he was supposed to learn and move on. Jesus is more than just a great leader, a good example, a good influence, or a great prophet. He is the Son of God. When you understand this profound truth, your only adequate response will be to worship him. Today, some consider Jesus' teachings as merely one more religious point of view, but God said to listen only to him. Regard him as your authority for truth and guidance. Jesus told Peter, James, and John not to tell anyone what they had seen until after his resurrection, because he knew that they didn't fully understand it and could not explain what they didn't understand. Their question in 17:10 revealed their misunderstandings. So 17:10 was, oh no, that was a different one that 17:10. Let's see. Why then do the teachers of the law say that Elijah must come first? So that's the question that they're referring to. Their question revealed their misunderstandings. They knew that Jesus was the Messiah, but they had much more to learn about the significance of his death and resurrection. Based on Malachi 4:5-6, the teachers of the Old Testament law believed that Elijah must appear before the Messiah would appear. Jesus was referring to John the Baptist, not to the Old Testament prophet Elijah. John the Baptist took on Elijah's prophetic role, boldly confronting sin, particularly the sinful lifestyles and abuses of the political and religious leaders, and pointing all people to God. The disciples had been unable to drive out this demon. Oh, this is the next section. This is the next section. Okay. So, thank you, Matt. Appreciate you. All right. Good morning, Christy and Tanya. Good morning. Jesus heals a demon-possessed boy. This is Matthew 17, verse 14 through 20. Yeah, if you're following along. When they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. "Lord, have mercy on my son," he said. "He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him." "You unbelieving and perverse generation," Jesus replied, "how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring your boy here to me." Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. Then the disciples came to Jesus in private and asked, "Why couldn't we drive it out?" He replied, "Because you have so little faith. Truly, I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." I think that that's something that, good morning, Barbara. Good morning, Bearded Granny. I think that's something that we all struggle with, is the faith of a mustard seed. And it's kind of unfathomable to think about, because if you've ever seen a mustard seed, it's very, 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 very tiny. And to think that small amount of faith can move mountains. Maybe not a physical mountain, but it can definitely move a spiritual mountain or an emotional mountain or something that you're dealing with inside. Just that teeny tiny little bit of faith is all it takes. Morning, Karen. His disciples couldn't save the boy from that demon because they didn't believe that they could. So let's read more on about that. The disciples had been unable to drive out this demon, and they asked Jesus why. He said the quality of their faith was insufficient. The power of God plus our faith is what moves obstacles and heals people. To the disciples, the mustard seed was the smallest particle imaginable. Jesus said that even faith as small or undeveloped as a mustard seed would have been sufficient. Perhaps the disciples had tried to drive out the demon with their own ability rather than God's. Even a little faith has great potential when we trust in God's power to act. If we feel weak or powerless as Christians, we should examine our faith, making sure we are trusting God's power, not our own ability to produce results. The disciples had been given the authority to heal, but they had not yet learned how to appropriate the power of God consistently. Regularly, Jesus was frustrated with the religious leaders as the unbelieving and unresponsive generation. Here, his disciples were reflecting that attitude. Jesus bluntly corrected the disciples, but his purpose was to spur them on to greater faith. So it does sound like he was being kind of harsh. Like, he was kind of upset. He's probably busy, trying to live out God's plan for his life and save people and do all these things. And his disciples were supposed to be his helpers. And he was like, come on, guys, we've been over this, And he was probably a little bit frustrated with them because it says that he had, that they were reflecting the attitude of the Pharisees. And, he often called them out for their shortcomings. So, morning, Greg. Okay, let's keep reading. Jesus rebuked the disciples for insufficient faith. He was showing how important faith would be in their future ministry. If you are facing problems that seem as big and immovable as a mountain, turn your eyes from the mountain and look to Jesus for more faith. Then you will be able to overcome the obstacles that stand in your way. And so remember the story of Peter on the water. It was when he looked away from Jesus that he started having problems. When you keep your eyes on Jesus, nothing around you should affect your faith. It shouldn't. I'm not saying that I'm perfect and that's that's how I live, because a lot of times I get distracted by the waves too, or the wind starts blowing really hard. I'm speaking hypothetically, but the wind starts rushing or the ground starts shaking and I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? When in reality, with Jesus, we're supposed to just keep our eyes on him and just know that he knows what's best for us and he's not going to lead us in the wrong direction. And that, even when the ground gets shaky and the winds blow and the waves, are high, that it's not the end. It's not the end. If you've read the Bible, we're going through it, but it is not the end. Morning, Hope. Good morning, Adam. Sorry if I've missed saying good morning to people, but anyway, let's keep reading. Next, we're going to be reading Matthew chapter 17, verse 22 and 23. Jesus predicts his death a second time. When they come together in Galilee, he said to them, "The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and on the third day he will be raised to life." And the disciples were filled with grief. They love Jesus. They're like, please don't, you don't have to let this happen. Anyway, once again, Jesus predicted his own death. And I'm reading the extra context section now. More important, he told of his resurrection. Unfortunately, the disciples only heard the first part of Jesus' words and became discouraged. They couldn't understand why Jesus wanted to go back to Jerusalem, where he would walk right into trouble. The disciples didn't fully comprehend the purpose of Jesus' death and resurrection until Pentecost. They didn't know that Jesus' death and resurrection would make his kingdom possible. We shouldn't get upset at ourselves for being unable to understand everything about Jesus. After all, the disciples spent 3 years with him, saw his miracles, and heard his words, but they still had difficulty understanding. Despite their questions and doubts, however, they believed. We should do no less. All right, now we're going to read Matthew chapter 17, verse 24 through 27. And this is the end. Peter finds the coin in the fish's mouth. After Jesus and his disciples arrived in Capernaum, the collectors of the 2 drachma temple tax, came to Peter and asked, Doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax?" "Yes, he does," he replied. When Peter came into the house, Jesus was the first to speak. "What do you think, Simon?" he asked. "For whom do the kings of the earth collect duty and taxes? From their own children or from others?" "From others," Peter answered. "Then the children are exempt," Jesus said to him. But so that we may not cause offense, go to the lake and throw out your line. Take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you will find a 4-drachma coin. Am I saying that right? Take it and give it to them for my tax and yours. We're going to read the extra context section now. Peter answered a question about really knowing the answer, putting Jesus and his disciples in an awkward position. Jesus used this situation, however, to teach Peter about Jesus' kingly role. Just as kings pay no taxes and collect none from their families, Jesus the king owed no taxes. But Jesus supplied the tax payment for both himself and Peter rather than offending those who didn't understand his kingship. Although Jesus supplied the fish and the money, Peter had to go and get it. Ultimately, all that we have comes to us from God's supply, but he may want us to actively participate in the process. As God's people, we are foreigners on earth because our loyalty is always to our real king, Jesus. Still, we have to cooperate with the authorities and be responsible citizens. An ambassador to another country keeps the local laws in order to represent well the one who sent him. We are Christ's ambassadors. Are you being a good foreign ambassador for him to this world? All Jewish males had to pay a temple tax to support the temple's upkeep. Tax collectors set up booths to collect these taxes. Only Matthew records this incident, perhaps because he had been a tax collector himself. Right, Cindy? Yeah, you won't be given more if you're not thankful for what you already have. Exactly. Interesting note. Moses and Elijah in the Transfiguration are also the 2 witnesses in Revelation. Huh. It's very interesting, Matt. Matt's always making good connections. James said, "Good morning, Wiley." Morning, Margaret. So I probably should have a sweater on. It's like maybe 52 degrees in here and I'm getting kind of chilly. I was fine when I was up like cleaning house and stuff, and then I sat down for too long and now I'm cold. Anyway, guys, you all got anything to say about Matthew chapter 17 before we get out of here? Tomorrow we'll be studying Matthew chapter 18. The disciples argue about who would be the greatest. Jesus warns against looking down on others. Jesus teaches how to treat a believer who sins. And Jesus tells the parable of the unforgiving debtor. So that's what we'll be going over tomorrow. Oh, you like my shirt? You got one that matches, James? Our friends Tony and Angie over at our cabin in the woods. Our faith has to become an anchor and pray people and stay in our faith. Right, Patricia? Have a blessed day, Tamara. So, you guys pray for our world. Pray for those around the world that are being persecuted. yesterday I mentioned it in the Bible live stream that if you're not aware, just this year alone, over 7,000 Christians in Nigeria have been brutally murdered. So please pray for that region, especially. Yeah, and all Christians worldwide that are being persecuted. All right, well, and if you guys want to, go check out that link in yesterday's Bible study about the Bible study that we're doing in the app if you're interested in that. So when someone asks for a prayer, I stop whatever I'm doing and I pray for them. I don't just say praying and moving on. Praying is not a morning or nighttime thing. It is an all-day walk with God every day, right? Patricia, I'm getting a little better. Getting a little better every day. Right. Yeah, Christine, pray that doesn't come to the United States soon. I have never believed it before now, but I really feel like, I could see end times in my generation, and that I don't know when it's coming. Nobody knows when it's coming, but be prepared, guys. Stay in the Word, stay close to God. Yeah, right, Kim. For all who need it and all who don't think they need it. Yes. Amen, Cindy. I'm also thankful for his input. Right, James, that's a very good point. Anyone who has a hard time praying, talk to God as a friend. And so that's what I do, because I personally have I certainly have a hard time praying out loud. I often don't, I'm not comfortable with it. And maybe as I grow more, I will become more comfortable with it. But as of right now, it's just not something that I feel like I can do. I mean, I know that sounds really stupid, but if you have a problem praying, talk to God like he's your friend. Talk to him however you would talk to your best friend. If you talk to your best friend really dirty and use a lot of bad words, you might clean up your language just a tiny bit, but talk to him like he's your best friend. And he will move in your life. And then when you talk, stop and listen, and you may not hear an audible voice, but a lot of times when I'm talking to God, it's silent. It's in my head. I'm not saying things out loud, and you can feel it. You can feel a change in your mood. Maybe you'll get goosebumps. If you stop and think about it and meditate on it and, stop to listen, you will hear him. He will talk to you. He will move in your life. And so that's a very good point, James. Cheryl, that's no right. Yeah, be careful who you vote into any office. Check out their religious background. If they don't believe in God, that is a red flag. Also, pay attention to who's funding them too, who's donating to their campaign, because that makes a big difference too. They always say that there's that old saying, the one with the gold makes the rules. So the ones with the gold that are donating large amounts to these politicians or board members or city council members or school board members, it goes all the way down to the local level. And before you vote for somebody, pay attention and do your research and try to figure out what they stand for, because what they say they stand for is probably not what they actually historically stand for. Oh man, Cindy, I didn't know there were still people missing after that. Oh my goodness. He has answered me through songs, right, Hope? Yes. Yes. That can work too. If you are seeking God, if you're going through something hard in your life, I highly recommend not just reading your Bible and talking to God like he's your friend, but turn on some worship music. K-Love is my go-to. It's all over the country, the United States. If you can't find it, they have an app on the Play Store. I'm sure it's on the Apple Store. It's KLOVE. They also have a website. So if you have internet, if you're able to watch this live stream, you are able to listen to K-Love. And they do a 30-day challenge where you listen to nothing but their radio station. You don't listen to any other kind of music for 30 days and see if it changes your life. And I promise it will. Amen, Barbara. Amen. You can talk to God while you're doing the dishes, while you're taking a shower, while you're driving in your car, while you're laying in bed and you can't sleep, while you're gardening or mowing the grass or working. You can talk to God anytime. He's always open. Man-made politics. That's why Jesus is reigning as king in the kingdom of God, to offer an alternative to dysfunction human politics or dysfunctional. Man. Nobody knows when it's coming, but I feel like I want Jesus, guys. I'm done with all these fake people that are out to serve themselves. Give me Jesus. Yeah. He answered me through this Bible study. Well, thanks, James. I prayed earlier before the Bible study, and I asked that, may God help me touch people and point to him, and that, that people will get something out of this. So, yeah, worship changes things 100%, Christy. I love Caleb. Me too. Right. I know, Christy, I got to go feed and water our animals too. Yeah, Cindy, New York City definitely needs our prayers. Right. He's the only one we can depend on is Jesus, right? If you have trouble praying, recite the Lord's Prayer. God will hear you and know what you seek, right? Because he can read your heart. He knows what's in your heart and what's in your mind and what's bothering you. Can you imagine when we go to heaven being in his presence? I hope. There's that song. I think it's called Can You Imagine? And it really makes you stop and think about that. Anywho, I got to get off here, guys. I got animals to feed, kids to feed, and we got work to do. It's supposed to get really cold tomorrow, and we're trying to get a ceiling in Amber's house. So, yeah. Oh, dang, Cindy. That's crazy. Well, pray for everybody, guys. And I'm going to get off here. I got work to do. But I love you guys, and I'll see you on tomorrow's study. Bye.